And we're
Hello.
live.
I think we're live.
Wow, look at this. First episode, Luke Deckard show.
Here we go.
Here we are, present. We don't have a 10-minute delay like the X-Men and Pirates that I severely messed up. Showing up on YouTube, that's fantastic as well.
Right?
Perfect.
We're good to go.
Nice.
Oh, look.
Let's go start it up. Yeah, Chief Brody Rules says.
What's up, Chief Brody Rules? How's it going?
Start it up. Start it up. I'm excited. I'm kind of excited
excited
about this. Yeah.
I know.
It's interesting. Very interesting. Very intriguing.
I'm mildly nervous.
I'm not nervous. I'm cool.
I'm not nervous.
Cucumber.
It's fun. Cool. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Drinking
How you doing? How you doing, Frank?
Hello.
How's it going, Frank? What's new? What's new in the world of Franklin? I call you Franklin. I don't actually know if your full name is Franklin. Like, my name is not Lucas. It is just Luke. Is it the same for you?
2:30 p.m. here. Good timing.
Good.
Nice.
That dull point in the afternoon in Midwest America where no one wants to work.
It is a perfect time then, I guess. You're free. I'm pretty free.
You know what's funny? I have my Spotify on in the background, and the track that's just come on is Predator. Don't ever call me Franklin. Franklin, I call you Franklin all the time, Franklin. Why can't I call you Franklin, Franklin?
Christy Joe's here as well. Thank you.
Christy Joe.
Thank you for joining.
LFG. I don't know what that means. I'm not hip. Let's freaking go.
I think so.
But maybe let's.
All right.
Okay.
Let me just ask you one of the big hitting questions that has been pondering in my brain. On the top left, right there, you have an assortment of Enterprise models.
Yes, I do.
And while we were setting up, I was so curious to know which ones they are.
Okay.
I'm sure you have them, you have them put in chronological order.
Kind of, I do. They are sort of in order. I can also tilt up a bit and show you. I got
okay. You got the captains of each of them.
So we have the Enterprise D over there with Picard. It's his ship, right? Then you have the Defiant from Deep Space Nine with Benjamin Sisko. Makes sense. Then you have the Enterprise C, which was only in one episode of Star Trek Next Generation. Yesterday's Enterprise is what that's called. Then you have the original Enterprise, and then behind that you have Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Okay, gotcha. Nice. All right.
And then there's this communicator, which I've had since I was a child. And it still works. It's like if you flick it open, it goes.
Oh, great! So the battery hasn't run out since then.
Well, I put a new battery in when it came.
Check. Oh, okay. I was about to say, man, them batteries from the 90s, you know.
I know, right? Powerful stuff. Yes, Frank. I moved my camera. I didn't think that the Velux windows would be as appealing as books and action figures.
Mine's blank.
This guy.
Get down, Goblin.
Get down, Goblin. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, man. I look at my background. It's just blank and boring. Someday I'll have something cool.
You have the interesting squares back there that are really just for sound absorption. But yeah.
Yeah.
Christy Joe says she's jealous, but you have a Spock costume. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? You know, I'm assuming you have.
She's very good at the cosplay thing.
Okay, so did you make your costume?
I can't answer that one.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Did you make it? So, anyway, how was your day today, Phil?
My day was all right.
Yeah, good. That's a good answer.
It was all right. Got 2 pizzas, ate most of them, a little left over. that's how it goes. What else can you say? I'm just waiting for the show to start because I wanna talk about some interesting topics we have today.
Yes, we'll get to the topics in just like 1 minute. Franklin says, "Is it a Kelvin timeline costume?" I hope to God it's not. Kelvin timeline doesn't exist.
I was sure at some point we're going to be talking about Kelvin timelines and original timelines and all that stuff. And you know what? For everybody watching, all 5 people watching, I can actually look at that. That's a lot of people, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a glass half full kind of person when it comes to these sorts of things. So, I am curious because I don't know that much about Star Trek. I know a good amount, but I don't know nearly enough. I've never watched a full season of Star Trek in my life. But I know things, like I know that the Next Generation is in the future of the original Star Trek, and I know that the Kelvin timeline is completely different to the original.
Yes.
Now I'm wondering if Deep Space Nine is in between, because you put that frickin' Enterprise in between the Next Generation and the original one. So, does it take place before Next Generation?
Well, yeah. So the Enterprise, this Enterprise C, comes in that episode. Yes, Enterprise. It comes through a wormhole from like 40 years ago in the Next Generation timeline. So it's this Picard's Enterprise is the Enterprise D.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is the C. So in order, you have A, B, C, D. And the Enterprise C went missing and was destroyed, whatever, a long time ago. And so it comes through wormhole. So it is in chronological order.
Gotcha.
Yes, indeed.
Says he misses the 2020 Phil Dragash live streams. I know. I miss them too. I would love to do them again, but there's only so much room in my brain for many, many different things that I have to get sorted, which is the problem. Someday they'll be back, but maybe
the Twitch stream.
Yeah,
those were fun.
Maybe you can't recreate the 2020 era of the Twitch streams, but I'm hoping to do it again someday.
I mean, not without Anthony and Ray.
Yeah.
Would they be around? Would they be up for it?
I don't know.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Drinking a little bit of Black Label.
My cheap cappuccino coffee.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Let's get down to business. Let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
Kick stuff off. So the main things we want to talk about today, as it says in my scrolling text, is Prey, Rings of Power, the MCU, and woolly mammoths. Do we eat them?
Definitely.
Obviously, we're not going to talk about woolly mammoths and whether we eat them or not. That is a joke, just so you know. But Prey.
We're going to get into it. Prey.
We're going to get into it.
We watched this movie.
We did.
So we watched this movie like how many days ago? Not too many. 4 or 5?
At the weekend. Weekend.
Yeah, we watched it with Christy Joe, who's actually listening to us, which is wonderful. And,
yes.
Holy hell, man.
That was an experience.
That was definitely an experience. What were your hopes for a new Predator film?
Yeah, no, I was about to ask you the same question. No, I my hopes have been dashed because like I only really like 2 Predator films, maybe 3. And I like the original. I like Predators, the one with Adrian Brody. I like it. I admit it. I think it's fine. And then Predator 2 is just sort of okay. Everything else I don't count and I don't pay attention to. Alien vs. Predator is quite bad. The Predator that Shane Black did was
that was a big disappointment. In fact, I have a few stories about these experiences on the other Predator movies.
Yes.
So I loved the Predator since I watched it when I was 11.
Yeah.
With my dad and my brother. And I was shielding my eyes from when you could see the corpse in the helicopter, the downed helicopter at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, I was like, scary because like I have something about like dead bodies and corpses, which is I have a weird relationship with it, just because like on one hand, I think designing and creating disgusting like dead bodies for films, as long as they're
Yeah,
fake, they rule. You know, just send me all the dead corpses. I'll put them in some kind of a, I'll put them in a box somewhere and open them up for Halloween and scare people with it, or put
sure.
them in other movies. But real dead bodies, I remember just seeing like there was a car crash a long time ago in 2001, and we had to like it was a huge traffic jam, and we had to like go like pass by the incident, and I could see a dead body lying there with the with the blanket. Is that what you call
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah,
Blanket?
yeah.
And I could see a little bit of their like pale fingers sticking out, and that haunted me for like a couple
Yeah.
of days after. And so like for me, I just can't help it with the dead with real dead corpses. But when it's fake stuff, it's like yeah, but like but so when I was watching movies at the time when I was a kid, no, I hated all that stuff. I was traumatized by the one by Ben Gardner's head in Jaws.
Yeah.
That was de facto the scariest moment when I was like 5 when I watched Jaws, and
Yeah.
and I remember being in bed. My mom tucked me in bed, and all I could think of in my mind was like that head coming out of the wreckage in the boat.
Love it.
I'm like Jim Morrison, haunted by a car accident on the highway. I have
Seriously.
no idea who Jim Morrison is, but
It's all right. That's what Google's for.
I'm not as wise and smart as Frank is.
Frank is well versed.
So anyway, I wanted to continue with after the scary experience watching Predator.
Yeah.
Because I could feel the brutality and the nature of a film like that with its tone, and how it discarded characters left and right, which was new to me. You know what I mean? I eventually grew to really love that film and rewatched it. We bought the DVDs whenever they came out, and it just became a staple in one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a combination of Arnold Schwarzenegger and science fiction, and making it like a Black Ops. Was it a Black Ops mission? Like a special ops mission?
Yeah. Yeah.
All that put together with all these wonderful, like, dare I say, character actors who are in it.
Yeah. And what's also quite
John
what's
McTiernan.
also really good about the first Predator is the I suppose the subversion of expectations, and that is that you have this group, this like what 5 or 6 dudes that are like jacked as heck, right? the most jacked dudes imaginable, that just
glistening jack dudes.
Yes, one by one they're getting taken down, like they're the top of the game. And one by one, they're getting taken down to there's just one guy or so, like 1 or 2 guys left. There's Arnold who stays behind, but then they get the girl and the other, like another guy or 2 other guys gets out, right? Something.
None of them get out.
Well, the girl gets out.
Wait, then the general comes in.
Oh yeah, then he kills. Yeah, that's right. So only the girl gets out. Yeah. So they all die except for Arnold, and so it's like you have these big macho dudes who just get floored, like. And I think that's great because it's
I think it floored in a good way. The way that movie picks them apart as the Predator hunts them by not even, by being so careful with when they show the Predator, when they don't show the Predator, and
very much a lot of strength.
Yeah, and it's just. I don't know, like the term movie magic gets thrown around a lot, but it is, we rewatched it after Prey, and it was like, wow, this cool water after this dry hell, and it was just like, that's how you make movies. I love this.
Yes. No, it's true. Yeah, I guess my expectations were so low because of Predators, the Predator rather, because of The Predator by Shane Black, where I didn't. It was a weird one where they turned autism into a superpower, and it was like, I just don't know what they were doing. There was a lot of like over the top, like crass humor. Like it felt like it didn't land. It didn't land for me, at all. So with this, I was like, I was intrigued by the idea, right? I
course,
like the idea of Predator in 1700s America, Midwest America, doing fucking up some shit. I think it has a really good premise.
True. I will
I
say,
think, go on.
I will say that I don't know if you've ever seen the fan film that they made maybe 10 years ago. Where it was
Predator versus Batman.
No, have you seen that one too? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I've seen that.
The production value was quite
fun.
good.
That was fun.
But no, there's another one that was like a short Predator movie with Predator versus a knight in the forest.
Okay.
So this kind of concept was not kind of like new to me because I felt like maybe Dan Trachtenberg, who directed Prey, probably saw that and was like, and then he was like, the gun from Predator 2.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was gonna say the gun predates anything else, so you could also Alien versus Predator establishes in their coming to Earth a long time ago.
True. That's
so I'm hard pressed to give the fan film the credit for the concept when it's laid in Predator 2 and then
fair enough.
But it's still cool. It's still
Very cool.
I would definitely watch an Alien versus a Knight movie. Hello, Pathfinder. Yeah, so I definitely, Aztec times, that's it. But Frank, isn't it further back than Aztec times because they go to a...
But weren't the Aztecs the latest? Like that was the civilization. That was the civilization that was present when the Spanish arrived, right? So there was already European.
No, I'm talking about in Alien vs Predator, the temple that they go into is in the Arctic.
I think that was supposed to even be pre-Aztec. That was supposed to be
it
was supposed to be like starting civilization on Earth, kind of primordial.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wasn't. I like the idea. I like the concept. I wasn't. I wasn't really sold on the trailers. But you don't judge a book by its cover, even though I do. You try not to judge a film by its trailer, even though you do.
You can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, you can't. So I went in with a little bit of hopeful expectations because we watched it like a day after it released, and the internet, all of the internet, even the grannies, were just praising Prey, saying it was the best thing.
I was just trying to avoid it. I was trying to avoid everyone talking about it because I knew they were going to watch it the next day, and I was like, oh no, please, I don't want to know. I don't want a good. I don't want a bad. I want to get in fresh. I want to just see it. I want to see it myself. I don't want to get this bias. However, I think that I've swayed a lot from outside opinions. From in the past, but I think nowadays I'm a lot better now because I don't think that I only saw a glimpse of like Prey is really good, and I'm like, oh okay, it's really good, so I'm expecting really good. But I don't think I did that this time. So I think personal addendum. I think that I'm getting better.
Yes, and also you had me, Claire, and Chrissy Joe in your ear the whole night, being like,
that's also true.
And this is what's interesting is all four of us watched it together, and all four of us came out disappointed.
Yes, I think I quoted Prince Caspian's Dr. Cornelius. I must say I am very disappointed.
Oh, that's good. And so I really want to dive in. I want to dive in first to like why I don't think it worked very well. And I think the biggest reason is the writing. I think the writing and the pacing of the story and the editing of that story was terrible. And an example of that.
Yeah. No, go on. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
It's all right. So an example of that is the very beginning of the movie where you have your main character, Naru, I think her name was. She's out doing some hunting, and she sees a predator ship, going through the clouds. It's very sort of mystical and impressive and scary looking, right? She sees that, The next scene we cut to is her shooting eagles or birds with her brother, and they're talking about some special ritual that she might go on. And she's being very casual, very blasé, and then she's just sort of off the cuff. Oh yeah, I saw this thing in the sky.
Thunderbird, yeah.
The Thunderbird in the sky. And I'm like, whoa, like you just saw. If I right now just saw a huge spaceship go flying through the sky,
Something
not only
you've
would
never
I
seen in your life,
right? Not only would I be freaking out, I would be getting my phone, I would be sharing it everywhere, I'd be telling people as soon as possible.
that would be
I
the
wouldn't-
next week for you.
Yes, I wouldn't go downstairs and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, watch an episode of South Park, wait for Claire to come home and have a conversation about South Park, and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, I saw an alien spaceship. You know,
Yeah, and like it's funny you're like you're focusing on that, but that's kind of more or less the characters' reactions throughout the entire film.
yes.
And it's so strange how consistent that is in this in the story that they're trying to tell.
Yes.
And I think that was like one of the first things that we were watching and going, I don't I don't understand, but and I also think I added a statement where, I'm sure that, a culture like that where there is a lot of that sort of, that sort of belief in
Yeah.
in these sorts of things. But even so, like the fact that it actually happened and you saw it with your own eyes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without any kind of, I think there's something, I don't know. I just feel like that's something that naturally should have been something. And also not just that, but also just for just to establish the movie, like to establish who these people are and like what,
Yeah.
What on earth is going to happen now to this life of theirs?
Right. And nothing. The thing is, like, nothing. I'm reluctant to say nothing happens, but I mean that in the sense that, like, emotionally, the journey we're taken on, like, I feel nothing the whole time. And also what I mean by nothing is that we've seen, how many other Predator films are there? We know the shtick. You have to do something original and interesting, and that really comes from making your characters really vivid, very three-dimensional, so that we care about them, so that when we're going through the Predator tropes, we want them to succeed. And I just didn't care whether she succeeded or not.
Yeah, Pocahontas didn't make a big deal about the about the clouds in the 1995 one. I want to see that again.
I've never seen Pocahontas, and I don't care. But that's because I don't like Disney very much. So that opening thing was very annoying to me. And then once we like get into the film, we're seeing clips of Predator. He's out doing stuff, killing snakes and
rodents and
pointless stuff. But the thing is, the movie keeps trying to kickstart. We don't really know what her mission is. What is her quest? She's hanging out with her mom and she's moping with her mom while her mom is grinding some, I don't know what she's grinding.
Juice.
Was it orange? What is it? Oh, was it?
I don't know. The orange.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay. She's grinding the orange flowering thing. Whatever. So, but then we don't get any sense of what is Naru's place within the tribe. Like, what is the hierarchy within the tribe? What is she? Is she bucking the system by wanting to go be a hunter, or is it okay for her to be a hunter? Because she's simultaneously trying to be a hunter, going hunting, and talking about this rite of passage that she needs to go through. But at the same time, they're like, "Oh, you need to go back to the village, to the tribe, and to the camp and do stuff there." And I'm like, "But why? You're not really establishing. You're not setting up that tension of what she is yearning for, and why she can't have it, and how she is being maybe stigmatized in her own community for wanting to do something that maybe goes against tradition." Which is a really cool idea and a really cool theme to explore, but
I like the whole thing. I want to see a good movie like this. This looks great. You know what I mean? But it. I wanted to say, go back to Predator 1. Within, I don't remember, like within like what, 5, 6, 7 minutes, we already have them pulling out into
Yeah.
that base camp, talking to the general. We already get the relationship between Dylan and Dutch, and then they talk about why he's here. We're here
Yeah.
because these guys, these guys, they went across the border, disappeared, and these gorillas down there are just hanging out with the orangutans. No, you know what I mean? And and we have this quick establishment of what's happening, and it's very easy to understand, and the characters sell that. They're like, and just with a few lines, you already know that Dutch has been through things like this. He knows,
Yes.
Dylan wants him because they're the best. He's like, my men are not expendable. You know what I mean? And all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff that happens right at the beginning, and you already know. You're there, and they're off. And I wish that was the case for Prey. But I'm not here to like crap on this movie. It's just that I watched it and I was disappointed.
Yeah, no, very, very disappointed. And there's a lot of people out there who are, who are criticizing the film, but I think for stupid reasons, because they're like, oh, it's whatever, it has a female lead and da 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 da. I'm like, well, Alien versus Predator had a female lead, and even though Alien versus Predator is generally a bad film, like the lead, she's pretty cool. Like I liked that. I liked her because I rewatched Alien versus Predator about a month ago, and I was like, it was bad. But I was like, no, I actually like this character. Like, I was on board with her the whole time because, like, I want her to succeed. She is freaking the heck out, and I want her to succeed.
Let's see how she overcomes that. It's so basic.
Yeah. I mean, Christy Joe makes a good point. One of the greatest flaws is so many stories these days lack three-dimensional characters and zero reason to care about them. And I think that... Say again?
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Ooby-dooby-dooby?
The thing is, what happens with things like Predator, or Prey rather, is, because we know the tropes of Predator, we're not really... the filmmakers and the storytellers don't have to try very hard. They don't have to win the audience over, right? And therefore, all they have to do is just tell you everything. I mean, there is no showing. There is zero showing in Prey. It's ridiculous.
Do you want to address some of Chief Broder rules?
We can, but I'm just going to point out that yes, you have stumbled onto a pilot. Welcome to the #1 show.
The #1 show.
The #1 show.
That we mean it's the first one.
I do mean it's the first one, but also it is #1. Okay, which comment by Frank do I need to pull up?
I don't know. Whichever you find is the best. I'm curious about the bones that make her bread. The bones to make her bread.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't find that, but yeah, I remember the comment. I remember seeing it, and I don't know where it is. Yeah. So the grind. I don't care about that scene anymore. We're done with that.
Okay.
Well,
no,
I mean, actually,
think about this.
Hang on. I found it. Also, I'm going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it because here's
the bones to make her bread. I don't get it.
I don't know. I think maybe she was whatever she was grinding. I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. I thought bread was like money, and I was like, money.
No, but this actually, Frank, bringing this up makes me remember something, and that is the other thing with this film is with all the kickstarts for it. Like it's at one point she's at home with her mom, and her mom's telling her you need to be here, and she's like, I want to be out there hunting. Oh, okay, well, whatever. And then suddenly she just is out there hunting. She tracks the guys who are out there doing the thing, and they just for the lion, and they're like, fine, whatever. But the thing is, with this stupid like grinding of the whatever the heck, throughout the film, there are so many moments where it just comes to a complete stop because it wants to tell you some historical facts. About the Comanche tribe. I think I pronounced that correct. Sorry if I didn't. But they want to tell you historical facts. They want to show you historical elements. And there's nothing worse than the story coming to a standstill just so you can get some historical facts. Right? I read a book recently.
mean, how many podcasts did you have to do to research all this historical fact, right? To to try to do a story.
Well, I mean, it is important to know what is legit, you know.
I'm agreeing with you here. Like
But like I said, I recently read a book where I was hoping it was going to be really good. It was like a 1920s noir sort of thing set in. I'm not going to say where it is because people will be able to find out what I'm talking about. But no, what?
I'm joking.
Oh, and the thing is, every paragraph there would be a sentence worth of plot and a paragraph worth of a Wikipedia article. And I'm like, I don't give a crap about this. I want the story to progress. I want the story to engage with the historical facts. You know, make it work in your favor. And I just didn't think that Prey was doing that very well at all. The other example is the buffalo. You know, like we have
buffalo. Yeah,
we have this buffalo, and in Native American religion and mythology, you know, certain tribes there is a lot of respect, and buffalo are considered, you know, holy and godlike. And so I was expecting something really deep to happen with that, and nothing happened with that, really.
Its only purpose was an interesting visual and a fake out, and getting the French to show up, just connecting it with the French. And I always felt like that was a little bit disconnected, because the French really didn't do much except become fodder to get killed. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, exactly. They were, we need people to die. Let's throw in some French trappers, and they can be the ones to die.
To meet new people and enjoy the arts. But Prey is dividing us and sowing discord.
Maybe Prey can be the new The Last Jedi. It's the new The Last Jedi, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I don't know. The amount of love that's being poured out for it is quite fascinating to me.
It's baffling to me. I'm baffled. I am absolutely baffled. I mean, compared to The Predator, yes, it's fine, but it's only just kind of fine in comparison.
Yes.
Anyway, where were we here? So basically, the bulk of the movie is basically just her kind of wandering around, like Merida. You know, she doesn't want to be a princess. She wants to go out in the wild and hunt the lion. And then there's this whole thing with the lion, and it's like, you know, trying to get that lion to get hunted. And that was also quite a disappointment as well. I remember us talking about like, if only it was something more existential than just like a lion or something like that. It had something to do with, you know, like, I don't know, like more environmental. I always felt like this could have been like perfect opportunity to have the Predator do something that is so much more like psychologically affecting to the warrior tribe that he's stalking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's Craig Bold movie giving the lead actress no personality.
I'm trying to think, and I can't think because she's not only not very proactive but also reactive, and her reactions were incredibly like, yeah, that happened, you know.
Well, you think of other really interesting leads. Like obviously Ripley comes to mind, but like Lewis from RoboCop comes to mind. April from Ninja Turtles comes to mind. I mean, my mind is stuck in the 80s and 90s because that's my era, you know. So like there's, you know, even shows like Jessica Jones and stuff like that. Like they all are tough and they have personalities, and you kind of get behind them and you root for them. Whereas with Naru, you're just sort of like,
she's just a vessel for us to look at more Predator stuff happening.
Yes, and it is literally no different than the Predator. Like I don't remember any. I remember the faces, but like all the dudes who were in the Predator, just useless. They were just. They didn't have personalities. They were, you know.
That's so weird because they kind of do, right? In the Predator, you mean because it's Shane Black, he did his Shane Black magic on it, because like every character is like has some kind of trait, right? And it's funny because you
But
mentioned that, but
that's all they have though.
Yeah.
You know, one guy is, oh, I curse a lot. One guy, they all just tell jokes. They're all basically Shane Black's character from Predator, or some version of that. Which it's like,
but it's and it's funny that you say that because I think that now that you're saying this, I'm kind of remembering like they don't like their person like it doesn't like them as characters don't engage in the story like you know what I mean, like there's nothing that kind of blends that in. They're just static the way they are, you know, like the guy with like the Punisher, the old Punisher with the
the dude from The Expanse. I know, yeah.
That's like all he does, and he just reacts the way he does, but there's no pulling, like using those characters to tell a story where these things get put into that narrative. I don't like. It's a bit weird to explain, but like, I can just go back to Predator 1, where we know all of these guys. We know kind of what they're like. Billy is always like tracking ahead, always worried about something, and when they talk about him, they're like, "What's got Billy so spooked?" Thomas Jane, thank you.
Yeah.
And you see what I mean? Like, he's not supposed to be that way, and that's already something that's kind of changing the character, and something that we are curious about knowing. And also,
a really funny example to me is Alien versus Predator, because even those characters had more personality and have stuck with me far more than anything else. The Predator and the girl working together to defeat the alien, because he realized, like, I even though I watched it recently, I've always remembered it.
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't mind it. It's schlock. Don't get me wrong. It's schlock, and I know that the film is bad, but I'm just kind of like, I get what's going on here, and I'm cool with it. Right on. Like, you know, cool, whatever. But Prey just, I just, from a narrative perspective, a narrative point of view, I just don't think that it landed in the way the reactions are claiming that it landed. The dog, okay, I gotta mention this because so the dog was probably the best thing, but there's one scene that I don't know why it's in the movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's when he is chasing the bear away. The dog chases the dog runs after the bear runs after the dog through the river, right?
Yeah.
And then the girl comes down and she's, you know, looking around thinking what she's gonna do. And then in the most comedic fashion possible, the dog comes bolting back, blasts right past his master, and then suddenly she sees the bear coming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I said it when we were watching. I was like, this is like Jack Sparrow and the cannibals chasing him in Pirates of the Caribbean 2. Like, someone just needs to take that audio of Jack going, ah, and just put that over the dog as it's running past. Because I'm like, you played this scene like comedy. Why? Why would you do that? And it's like, I can only assume the editors had no effing clue what they were doing.
No, because like the way that when you were talking about the editing, the way that it was paced, like you said, it always feels like it keeps trying to kickstart something and it never kickstarts anything. And every individual scene progressing to trying to build some kind of tension doesn't work because you could start the movie at any point in those kinds of like build up moments because there's nothing like that's really progressing any kind of engaging point A to point B telling of a story, I think. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is what disappointed me a lot. And do you want to talk about the Predator?
We can do that now. So actually, no, there's a couple of things a few more things I want to say, but I find this funny. I haven't seen Prey, but at this point, I don't have the energy for Predator movies anymore.
I love Frank.
And I think that's spot on. My last few complaints, because we want to talk about other stuff tonight, is like there's in terms of like her, you know, people. I'm reluctant to call her the M word, the MS, Mary Sue. She's a Mary Sue, right?
We don't say these things over here.
We don't say these things, but I just did anyway. And an example of that is you know, she is running away from the predator. Her foot gets caught in a bear trap.
Oh yeah, the bear trap.
She opens the bear trap and she just runs away. She doesn't have a limp. She doesn't have a broken ankle or foot or leg. She just is perfectly fine. Her motherfucking leg was caught in a bear trap and there's no sign of damage. Like when you write a book, like you know, you always have to remember when you've hurt your characters, because you need to remember how that is going to affect the rest of the story. Like it drove me nuts. Like absolutely drove me nuts.
It's interesting that you say that too. I know that a lot of people would say that that's a nitpick or something like that. But you know, these little
you go
nitpicks,
get your leg stuck in a bear trap and then try and run away from a predator.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a line between details kind of not working, but you can let it go, and getting your leg stuck into a bear trap kind of situations. And I also feel like that the reason why we're also talking about these selective scenes is because there's like not much else to talk about, because it's basically just another Predator movie where the Predator is stalking somebody, and that person is just not. There's nothing to that person that you know is trying to defeat the Predator, and this person just goes through different events with the Predator chasing her, and at the end of it, you know what happens, and that's the end of the story. There's nothing else. I think that's at the end of it all. There's nothing else to like take away from it. There's nothing else to be entertained by other than it's a predator stalking. Like you know, it's another predator thing happening. Because like I want to compare it to the first one because we watched it the day after, and there's so much more. There's so much more going on in that story than just the predator stalking them. You know what I mean? They had the whole thing. You set us up, and then there's tension between the people who are stuck there, and there's always something that's still focused on who's hunting them and how to defeat them, but also these other little bits that make the story just more dense and entertaining to watch, so you can watch it over and over again. There's always something nice to observe about it.
I think
quality. It's quality.
I think the final thing I can say on this, and it's what I said to you guys when we were watching it, and that is the movie. It really just felt like it was written by a first-year creative writing student who were more
first 20 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean
I guess so.
It felt like someone who didn't quite know how to handle storytelling, who had done a bunch of research on a Native American tribe and were really trying to make pieces fit that weren't really fitting. And also they weren't that interested in telling a predator story, but they kind of were, but they kind of weren't. And I think because of that, you know, we don't really get a real sense of either the predator or the tribe's people. I think that's why Naru is so thin as a character, and why I don't care about her. You know, because we're just sort of dumped into
the other characters.
Yeah, you know,
the other characters.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't remember any of their names. I just, you know, like there's that one scene where she's being dragged back to the tribe, and then one guy just starts wailing on her, and I'm like, why is he beating the shit out of her? I don't get this. This is vile and mean, and I don't understand why he is being so mean.
Never established as being vile and mean, or we've never gotten a reason for them to be vile and mean to her in the entire.
And it was literally just so that the predator could come and kill them. And I'm like, make something more out of this. Give me the emotion. Like, what is the reason behind this? And
who are these guys? I wish I knew who they were, but I didn't know. I thought they were all hell, but I guess they're not. But I don't know. It doesn't matter because the predator's coming.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, I have to say that I don't think that this film is any better than Shane Black's. I really don't.
I think it's slightly better.
I mean, maybe just slightly. Just slightly, but like everyone's saying, "Oh, I love that it's this stripped back thing," but it's like you're saying it's stripped back solely for the reason that it's set in 1719, and that there's not machine guns, and that they're just in the wilderness. That's the only reason you're saying it's stripped back. It's the same. It's the exact same kind of scene that we saw with the very first Predator.
I feel like that too, except without anybody interesting who's going to be on any interesting characters on screen to follow along.
I mean, Predators. That's stripped back. That's just 6 people stuck in the woods being killed one by one.
Yeah,
that's stripped back. It's the same thing as people in the wilderness, because that's what's fun about Predator, is that sort of you don't know where they are sort of thing. But this just.
And Predators, I totally like underestimated Predators when I watched it first, because I remember watching it for the first time in 2010, and I was like, it's okay. But now when I want to watch it again, because there's been so many bad Predator movies that I'm gonna go back to this and be like, this is great actually in comparison.
Yes.
At least it's got something. I don't know, like sometimes it's hard to explain what you feel when you want to go back to see that, but you know that there's an entertaining story you can follow along with, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's just quickly talk about the Predator itself. I think we also had some problems with that.
Oh yeah, the actual the alien itself. Now I hated it. I absolutely hated the design. When he took his helmet off, I didn't like the helmet for one. I don't understand why he had a bone helmet.
Because like you kill some beast. Probably that was like a really important beast to kill, and you make a helmet out of it. You like polish it on your helmet. You know what I mean?
But it was the helmet. The skull was the helmet. And
it doesn't matter. Like it's whatever. I don't know.
Why no other Predators had that? And I get the.
There's been a lot of different Predator designs throughout the years now, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just thought they always carry the skulls, and that's fine. But yeah, so the over reliance on the Predator being mostly CGI was not good.
Yeah, with the transparency thing.
Yeah, I think the reason that he was mostly CGI and or invisible for the film is budgetary reasons. Because he's invisible most of the time, or partially invisible.
But so maybe it was just because they just had an idea that if he's invisible, it's going to go with the textbook example of don't show so much and leave it to the imagination. In which case, I would say you can do so much without a Predator at all.
Yes.
Is he there? Make him invisible.
We watched the Predator, and
still scary.
Very rarely do we see him.
Powerful. And he was so inept as well. I just wanted to bring that up because it was embarrassing what kind of a tool this guy was. KJ called him Steve. We called him Steve throughout the entire thing.
Steve.
Yeah, he's just Steve the Predator to me now. It's just like he gets beat up so many times trying to be really cool, and he like what's the first thing you see with this Predator? He kills a snake. Big deal, man. Killed a snake. I like when they had that shot of those bison that were skinned, even though it was the French. That should have been like the opening, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
oh gosh,
holy hell, what's going on? Something's rotten in the state of the Appalachians. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of dread and that sort of like intimidate. Like I was thinking like an intimidation factor that the Predator could be doing, which could be something new, because we saw the Silent Stalker thing, but you could also have the Predator maybe kind of psychologically mess with, in this case you have the tribe, and I think that would be an interesting idea. Just drive them to madness or something like that and then take them out. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I'm saying. But he was just so inept. He get caught in a bear trap once. I think he did. He had to.
Yeah, he did. I think he did. Yeah.
And I know that people say, oh, but the first one got caught in the trap. Yeah, but this is after like the scenes and scenes of us not knowing where he is. And what I loved about the first one is that every time the Predator shows up, every time we find out where he is, he's always so close behind one of our characters. He's like so close to getting you. You know what I mean? And he's done like So there's such a big difference between this predator that, sure, he killed a bear, but but when he got killed by his own weapon at the end of the movie, sorry, spoiler. I just thought this is pathetic. This is like, I think KJ just mentioned this is just the guy that they send on Earth. It's just like, come on, dude, just do what you want. You think you're hot stuff? No, he'll die.
I don't think any of us to this day, 4 days later, 5 days later, whatever, like really understand how he died.
Well,
she did something with the helmet, and something went back and hit him in the head.
And we didn't, and that's another thing. Like, we never got her kind of learning something about the technology or anything. She just kind of did it. And maybe there's a scene or two that I missed that might have showed that, but it's still, it's not like Arnold, you know, finding the mud and
yes. And the thing is,
and slowly figuring out every one of the Predators. Advantages and using it against him.
The last thing that we'll talk about is just very briefly is the end of the movie makes no sense to me, because she comes back to the tribe with the predator's head, throws it down, and then suddenly everyone is praising her. No one in the fucking tribe knew what she was doing, or really knew that the predator was out there. And then suddenly she's like, it's confusing. It's like they give her a staff, and I'm like, have they just made her the chief? Why? Like, what is going on? Like, because I think even in the end credits, I think she has a staff as if she is the chief, and I'm like, hold on, where's the chief?
I don't know.
Like, who was the chief?
The tribe had nothing to do with the predator.
Yeah,
nothing to do with him.
And I think on the spot when we were
talking, like her coming back to it's like when Frodo comes back from the Shire, to the Shire, and then they're like, "What the hell?" Like, remember, what's his name? Proudfoot shows up, like, is looking at them in their big ponies and their decked out outfits, and he's just like,
"Yeah."
That's what it felt like, because they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I spitballed a couple of ideas when we were watching the film, like very early on, and I'm like, you could have done a movie about a tribe that is being forced off their land by bastard, colonizers, right? Uh-huh. And in the process of this situation, you then throw a predator into the mix, and maybe she's, separated from her people and has to team up with someone or not, that could have been an interesting idea. Or you literally just could have better established what her role was within this tribe, and given her a reason. Is she the chief's daughter who is bucking the system, wants to be more? They're trying to tell her no, but then there's problems with the local colony, and that they're dealing with stuff, and then suddenly again you throw a predator into the mix and all shit goes haywire, and then by the end it makes sense that she's made the chief because she's the chief's daughter. She takes command because they realize
there's a lot you could still establish on there. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm ignoring the comments. I was just kind of like just talking about Steve and his antics in this movie.
Steve!
And then when they added the lines, Frank, they added there's so many predator lines in this movie. Remember? And he's just like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And
Speaking of that,
I watched the original, and it was so good when Arnold said it because it had meaning.
Yes, the very, very last thing I'm going to talk about with this movie is...
This is the third time we said this.
Good. It comes in threes.
I can't help it, yeah.
So... the acting really wasn't very good. I know people are saying the acting was amazing. The acting was not very good from anyone at all. It was just very...
I hate saying this too, but
it was low-budget acting. It was a low-budget film. There's a reason this film is not being played in cinemas, and it's because it's not very good. And all of the actors have Santa Monica dude bro accents. They all speak like their principal PC from South Park, which I know you don't know who that is, but yeah. But they're all sort of like, dude, like there's a lion and we gotta go kill the lion. Like, you know, it's probably over there somewhere, dude. Like, all right,
That's it, man.
come on, guys, yeah. And I'm like, why are they talking like this? Why are you talking like this? Stop it.
I understand, but it's not necessary. I think you'd buy it if they would portray something with their characters that they don't have, unfortunately.
Maybe tone it down.
Yeah, that's enough talking about this.
Yes.
I think we've said most of the gist. I mean, there's so much I could, you could kind of keep talking about with this thing, because like,
oh yeah, no,
for the first time, it's just been so clear to me what the strengths of the first movie is and what the weaknesses of this movie is,
Yes.
But anyway,
so
comments are there.
Comments, yes. Well, Frank said that Moana had the same issue. Nobody knew why she left during her adventure. I've never seen the film, so I have no comments on that.
I've seen the film. All I remember is the beginning and end.
Amazing. Pathfinder said they should have done Predator in Victorian London against the backdrop of era of Jack the Ripper.
Dude.
And done a tough
That's like Predator 2, but maybe good this time?
Yeah, possibly.
Predator,
the other problem that you have with that is the line that the predators hunt in places that are hot.
That's also true. You want to keep that a little bit. It's an interesting. We can do Victoria and Victoria era. What did they colonize? India? You can do that.
They did.
Oh, smarter than a beaver. Yeah, smarter than a beaver, baby.
That line, we made fun of that line so hard. I just can't. That smarter than a beaver was the thing that baffled me. It's like, you sat there watching a beaver drown, and you sat there watching it gnaw its leg off, and therefore you learned something, that you are smarter than a beaver because you wouldn't do that.
That's like me writing the script and being like, I'm filming this first draft. I don't care what it says. I wrote it. I'm filming the first draft. Also, like the just coming on an execution standpoint, I was kind of disappointed with the overall way it was filmed too. It just felt like
cheap.
Yeah, it felt like there was a lot of shots that were very conventional, and there was a lot of ways of, displaying this information that was very, very, very conventional as well. And there wasn't a lot of when they were in Mexico filming Predator 1. I remember they had a horrible time. That's what I heard. The cast and the crew had a terrible time filming in a real jungle. Very frustrated because the foliage. John McTiernan always said the foliage. If you go to real jungle, the view stops here. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't see. There are no, and they brought these big cameras with them, and they had to film in stock that had to also incorporate the low light. So that's why they had that grain into it. And I feel like that might have also been retrofitted purposefully because it gave that kind of feeling to the movie as well, where it.
Yeah.
And it like, I can remember so many things in Predator 1 that gives you a sense of unholy dread, just, with these little elements over, the desaturated color grading and wide shots that we got in this one. Because I would have loved to have seen like more of like using the environment to give you some interesting, not just angles, but interesting ways to tell the story, especially with the Predator.
Yeah.
Probably could have thought a little bit more outside of the box of how to implement the Predator in this environment now.
Yeah.
Instead of just cutting away to the Predator killing another snake, or killing a wolf.
Frank asked a good question. He goes, so is the issue with the director, his vision was not right for the film, but then he follows it up with, because if nothing is working, then it's on him, right? I would say that's complicated.
Process.
Yeah, I would say it's complicated. The script might be bad, and you might be forced to film a bad script. You have producers involved who want certain things. That can cause problems. Blade Runner is an example. The original cut, perfect example. Or Josh Trank's Fantastic Four stick. where that was, he's been vocal about the studio being the reason behind the issue.
I mean, there's always like that's the thing about I think that when someone says it's a miracle any movie gets made it's so true, because there's so many layers of people. I am from Twofold Podcast. Did you recognize my voice? There's so many layers of people looking at the script and making decisions, and the director kind of has to go between everyone's kind of opinions and thoughts to funnel that in and try to, as best they can, to create a movie that they see in their head with all these I mean, and it also depends production on production as well. Who knows? Maybe you got a person who's producing that's a jerk, and he's just like, I want this to be made. Yeah. Maybe you got a producer
my son is the star of the show.
See what I mean? And then maybe you got a producer who's like, no, I'm gonna let you make your movie. I'm just gonna be here to make sure everything's working so you can get those shots.
Yeah. This, I think, leads us to our next topic nicely.
Or maybe the director just didn't see enough, like didn't read the script enough.
Yeah.
And go, wait a second, something's not working. Or they didn't have time. Maybe Dan Trachtenberg just didn't have time to redo it.
Or maybe
and then they just went, okay. I don't know.
Maybe the script wasn't done, like Quantum of Solace.
Oof. I mean, some people are saying it's good, actually. Did you see some YouTube videos where it's like, Quantum of Solace, actually good.
No, it's not actually good. It's actually bad. So anyway, I think, Frank, this leads us to our next topic, which probably won't be as long, but we might as well start talking about Rings of Power and how they ghosted Peter Jackson.
That's great. I love this because you want to introduce the topic that we can say about this?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think we saw an article this last week that came out that Peter Jackson says Amazon Lord of the Rings ghosted him, that he was asked to be involved and look at the scripts, and I think they said they asked Fran as well, Fran Walsh. So they were like, pardon?
Not Philippa Boyens?
The article says that yes,
it's just him and Fran.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, do you want to be involved with the show? And they're like, hey, not until I see a script.
I love that. That was the best. That was the best response I've ever heard about accepting a project. It was beautiful. He said it's impossible. That's an impossible question to answer without seeing the script. And I'm just like, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes. No, I mean,
I'll never forget this.
No, I totally agree. I mean, Rings of Power has been such an interesting piece to watch.
Yeah, I'm not talking about this like so much. Rings of Power, it's just so silly.
No, I know, but
too much to unpack.
Yeah, it's too much to unpack. But we do have to talk about it a little bit because we told people we would. I think the idea that I get this vibe from this show that they really wanted. At first, they wanted Peter Jackson. At one point, they had what's his name, Alan Shippey on board. Tom Shippey. That's it. They've got all these people on board who are really. They're trying to get people on board who are really heavily in the first series, the first series of films, and thinking, oh, if we have them on board, if we can use their name, that's really great. That's going to give us the clout that we need to impress people. And
little did they know.
I just feel like everything that comes out with this show just keeps being. It just sounds worse and worse and worse. It's like, oh, Peter Jackson was ghosted because we didn't send him the scripts after we asked him, or Tom Shippey was fired from the show for reasons unknown. And then you start seeing these these trailers that are just really bad. Like, production quality is really bad, and then you start hearing about the script for this show is actually meant to be several ages crashed into one. And I'm just sort of thinking, but they want this epic Game of Thrones sort of dark, gritty Lord of the Rings show. And I'm just sitting here thinking, go to any bookstore. Children of Huron is on every single bookshelf and every single bookstore everywhere. Like, that's a dark, gritty story full of sadness and death and
incest.
Yeah,
You got it
like
all.
that's your story. Do that. Do something like that if you really want to. But it's like, no, we're gonna do
have it say
Sauron,
Lord of the Rings.
you know. And it's like, do we really need a whole show that's sort of cutting up bits from all over the legacy of the, not the
Yeah.
legacy, but the history of this mythical world, and
Yeah,
then
and I think
stacking it all together like this? Like,
yeah, and I do feel like it's because Tolkien was so precise and like really detailed about what goes where and when, and I heard that if Tolkien watched the Lord of the Rings films, there would be lots of little things that he would be bothered about. So,
probably,
he's got a lot of things, it's a thing that he made, and he made it for himself mostly, and you know what I mean? And so like the Tolkien's secondary world, as he calls it, is kind of famous for being so definitive,
yeah,
you know, because a lot of it makes kind of sense, because that was like that's what he was thinking about all his life, right?
yes,
So it's such a disservice to just hack and slash timelines and storylines and put them together and be like, we're gonna do what Star Trek did to the show. We're gonna make like we're gonna do the 2009 Star Trek. You're gonna love it. You know what I mean?
we're gonna do Strange New Worlds. It's set before Kirk, and it's gonna mess up everything canonically,
That's kind of how it feels. Yeah.
and I just, yeah, I don't know. I just, I feel like this show has too many red flags to be excited about.
Dude, the red flags turn into like flaming flags at the moment because like I did you see that? You saw the clip? I saw the clip. We'll show the clip.
Yes, I'm
With
nervous.
the
I'm nervous to show it because I don't know if we get struck. But there is the
Wuxia moment, the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
yeah, where
Yeah.
Adriel goes running up towards a troll and she leaps. She's catapulted off of running over someone's swords.
Yeah, baby.
And I saw that, and so I said, I was like, "This is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. What? Why are they doing this? This isn't." I know that Legolas and the original trilogy had some outrageous action scenes. Also, they were the worst things in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Like the shield scene, the grabbing of the horse flip around scene, like
the Lumakill scene. That was.
yeah, it's just I'm like, God, like why
But
did
here we are
doing this?
Here we are. We're
Yes.
back. We're back.
We're back, baby. So Rings of Power reminds me of Disney Star Wars. They're going to spend too much time trying to destroy the past. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if people like actually set out intentionally to ruin what came beforehand. I think there is a level of maybe narcissism involved where they just people really want to leave their stamp on something. Like I remember feeling that way back when I used to watch Doctor Who. I really admire Stephen Moffat as a writer. I think he was really good with plotting things, but I was feeling towards the end of his run, he was doing things like the War Doctor that I'm like, I think you're doing this just so you can like, this is your stamp from your era. But like, you've already done Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, two brilliant doctors. Like you've left your mark, man. You don't need to add to canon, like you've done so with these two doctors.
I think there's a lot, and I'm not one to talk about this either because like I haven't experienced it firsthand, but from everything that I've read about filmmaking and politics in the film industry, there is a lot of ego going around, and I think that a lot of people can feel that even if they haven't been there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm here, I want to put my mark on certain things.
Yeah.
And sometimes, many times, that becomes just way more important than doing anything else. And it's so unfortunate because that's such a poor way of like, having that, you have that privilege to make something that can stand the test of time, and you can make a great story and inspire future filmmakers, future watchers of this media. And you're just like, no, it has to have a statue of me in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that happens, and that's a lot. There's a lot of people working in the film industry, and they don't get big. Many times they don't get big by their creative skills.
Yes.
Either.
I think one of the most important things with franchises like Prey, Predator, Lord of the Rings is when you are the person in charge, like you are shepherding this. Like that means you need to be looking after and taking care of. Not saying, "Hey, that sheep can go." you know,
Way.
it's very much a thing where it's like, no, you need to be very, very. This is why I really love the kind of I'm a big fan of Star Trek, and I feel Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even Enterprise. I mean, you really felt that there was a solid vision behind all the shows. Enterprise is a little bit rough, I'll give you that, but solid vision behind all the shows, and you had someone behind the show who was adamant that they were going to ensure that like Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future is maintained throughout. Gene Roddenberry is now here. Rick Berman, I think is his name. Rick Berman is no longer in charge, and look at where we are with Star Trek. It's sad, and I don't want to see this happen to Lord of the Rings. But someone the other day on Twitter said, "Is Lord of the Rings of Power going to be essentially the Sci-Fi Network's Dune series?"
Oh, geez, yeah, I forgot about that one. I haven't seen
Exactly.
it, but I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pathfinder says, "Did you know that they flew all the top Lord of the Rings YouTubers to meet the show and footage with a Q&A with the showrunner was just to try and get them fandom back on the side?" I did not know. I knew that they did some like mega fan things.
Yeah. One of them actually made a video about, which included the audiobook that I did as well. Said nice
weird.
things about it, which is very good, but that's on one of the videos. Yeah, and they just flew them all over there, and I don't know. I have honestly no idea. I have no idea how these things work, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you're honest or not. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of.
I think it's hard because we've known for years that reviewers and stuff like that they're given a lot of stuff by the companies, and they like it. It's easy to be sort of have your palm greased by free flights, free hotel, free food, free inside information. I don't know.
I mean, that happens in any other business too.
It does. It does. So I kind of don't trust. I'm cynical. I like my hard-boiled stuff. I'm cynical.
Yeah. Pathfinder says the Red Book. Yeah, I actually do that for the Red Book YouTube channel, but it was actually Nerd of the Rings that mentioned the audiobooks that I did, which was very nice. It was really cool.
Oh.
Anyway,
Yes,
Pathfinder says, I want to love this show so much. That's why RLM reigns supreme.
It's true. It's true. So, Lord of the Rings, we will see. We will watch it. We will probably talk about it in some fashion when it comes out, because how can we not?
How can you not after all this? Especially when people are going to ask me about it a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Now that they know where I am, they're going to be like, what'd you think? What'd you think? Because I always get, I have friends, bless them. They do want to send me the next trailer of something and ask me my opinion. Yeah. And usually I just go, I don't know. I'm no different to any of you.
We will do a Lord of the Rings show once the show comes out. After maybe an episode or two, we'll do it. We'll do a Lord of the Rings bash. Yeah. Whether that's a fun bash or a bash.
Yeah.
We'll see.
At this point, so far, Lord of the Rings this show has it keeps going, further down the cliff to me. Like,
yes,
when they initially announced it, I thought, hey, and then they were saying second age. Yeah, they were like second age, and I'm like, I'm already thinking like, man, if only they could, if only they knew I did the audiobook, and then they'll be like, maybe I can ask to direct an episode. You know what I mean? I would have loved to do that. And then I thought that also and then I remember 2019, I was out in I was out in the forests of Slovenia, and it was beautiful. And I was just thinking, oh, there's this little stream, and I'm like, it's like I could find the ring in the stream, right?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, what if they did this show, they could have started it at the end of the first stage where they locked up the first Dark Lord Morgoth, and then it's like, and then it could be like a story of like eras, because it takes place. The
Yes.
second age is, what is it, 3,000 years,
Yeah.
2,600, something like that years, and it starts with Morgoth going away, the Valar, the big gods, leaving the earth to fend for itself, and ends with the last alliance against Sauron, right? So they have
Yeah.
all the rings being made. You have the elves and the dwarves being tight mates, and
Mm.
you have all this. You have some great elf characters being really passionate about their craft, and you have Sauron deceiving everyone. And one of the first ideas I had was like, if they're gonna do that, you have constant characters, because there's the elves who are immortal, and you can tell it through their perspectives, and they can see all these eras go by really fast,
Yes.
and we can see that, go through that journey with them, and we can see how like man expands, because like at the beginning of the second age, like the world of men is not as powerful as it becomes at the end of it, because like
Right.
Numenor is not yet a mighty country, you know what I mean? And this is where the story unfolds. Anyway, sorry, they're not doing that. They're doing wuxia with fighting trolls. What else is Galadriel's having a sword, kicking ass, and going, look, it's Sauron was here, and it's like Sauron was not an eye yet.
Yes. Oh, and her husband is dead. What's his name? Gosh.
Celeborn.
Celeborn. He's dead.
Damn it! Why did you make Celeborn? Stupid.
Yeah.
This is
Rumor is he's dead. So maybe he'll come back to life at some point. But rumor is he's dead.
very sad.
Or
Very
maybe it'll be like he's thought to be dead, and that's why he's not around. But
Who
we will.
cares? It's all rubbish. It's all rubbish at this point. Like, and now to see what's happening is just, there's no way it's gonna be good. I mean, to me, my opinion. The expressions of opinions are Phil's and no one else's.
Exactly. Phil's alone. We'll see. Like I said, we'll give it a watch. We'll see what happens. But I have very little, very, 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 very little hope that it's going to be good. But yeah. So speaking of mega franchises,
Oh boy, here we go. This is
Woolly
like a stab.
Mammoth. Do we
Oh,
eat them
good.
or not?
All right, that's good. The audacity to ask if it's edible or not is very baffling to me.
So Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, phase by. That is my coined phrase. You heard it here on the Luke Deckard show first. I'm so fucking funny. I mean, I feel like I am. But anyway, so I tell you what, you and I have had an interesting
Decade.
over a decade with this franchise. And it started off as one that we loved and enjoyed and were excited for and excited.
I remember. Yeah. I remember Iron Man 1 came out. We finished watching it, and this was with our friend in Indiana.
Yes.
And we just said, this is like, I don't know, this was really good. This was like the best movie since, I don't know, like, since, what did we say? Spider-Man 2? I think that's what we were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that. We're like, yeah, it's great.
Iron Man 1 was great. It was a surprise hit. I was like, oh wow, I loved it. I loved Tony Stark. I loved Robert Downey Jr. in that role. I loved his character arc of a man who has no heart, who finds a heart and finds a soul at the end and
finds purpose.
I'm like, that was great. Iron Man 2 was terrible. Iron Man 3 I love. But we're not gonna go through every single one. But you know, the thing is that the MCU really started off well. I even like the Hulk film. I know a lot of people don't, but I really like the Hulk film. I think it's quite good. But you know, we went from these kind of solo films to kind of sketchy. You know, Captain America 1 wasn't very good. Thor was a bit ropey, but then Avengers pulled it all together, and
But
Avengers
both were sincere, at least.
Yes, they were sincere. That is accurate. And then Avengers pulled it all together, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Like they really did it. They pulled off this mega film, this team of superheroes. It
I
was
honestly thought it was going to be nonsense.
I did too.
I expected nonsense.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was great, And then Phase 2 happened, and you start seeing chinks in the armor, and it starts getting a little bit more up and down. A few more downs than ups. Age of Ultron, not very good at all. Civil War was me tapping out. I was bored by Civil War, and then I was like, okay, I will watch Endgame, and I will watch Infinity War and Endgame. And I thought, okay, I'll give these two a go because it's 10 years later. It's the end of the story. You kind of know, whether you know or not, that Tony Stark is going to die, Yeah. So it's like, all right, let's see where this ends. And you and me both were of the same mind, where at the end of Endgame, it just felt like the franchise was done. It felt like goodbye.
Yeah, I know for you, Luke, you were just like cynically tapping out. For me, it was bittersweet. I didn't, for all the rough spots, that ending was just like, I had a whole afternoon and evening after watching Endgame going, man, Cap, Iron Man, all those guys, they're, it's over, man. It's done. This journey is finished.
Exactly. And I was happy with that. I was happy with the journey to be over. I was like, okay, we're done. The story is over. Let's take a break. Let's stop. Let's put this stuff aside for a while and let people calm down, because you're not going to be able to top a universe-wide crisis.
Or not just that, but crisis for all the characters and everyone that we've gotten to know so far.
Yeah. But obviously Marvel, they don't know how to stop, because they're making too much money. And I get it. You want to make the money.
I get it.
But at what cost? And I feel the cost now is totally at the cost of creativity and originality and goodness. And we'll read this comment by Anna. So Anna asks, have I rewatched the early MCU films recently, wondering if I hate the new ones only because I've grown old and bitter, or if they really have got so much worse. I think they've gotten worse. I don't think it's an old and bitter thing, and I think the reason for that is, as a kid growing up, and even now, like, there are films that are very old that I love and continue to age well, and then there are films that I loved when I was a kid that I'm like, these are bad. I didn't realize they were bad when I was a kid, but now I can see that they're
like
bad.
For me, Godzilla 98.
Terrible.
I loved it as a kid, man. I was obsessed with Godzilla 98.
Yeah. I think the problem with Marvel is once you kind of got past the first Avengers film, and everything became very cookie cutter. And I've always said this with Marvel, is that I've always called it a bouncy castle. And that
bouncy castle is back.
The bouncy castle is back. And that's because when a character gets hurt, when they go through some sort of change, when they go through some sort of psychological torment, at the end of the movie, they're right back to where they started. They never grow, and they never really change. Tony Stark, even though he changes in the course of Iron Man 1, he never really gets past that. He's always reverted back to that.
But Luke, comic books did that all the time.
Well, they didn't. I completely disagree with that. They don't do that. Scott and Cyclops is always tormented by Jean's death. Wolverine is always pining. Like, there's always grief and things that happen and things, So I don't agree with that. Comics will do that when they revert things, when DC will revert things back to the way it was to start things over. But and I think that's what annoyed me quite a bit about these Marvel films post the Avengers, is everything was just resetting every film. And I'm like, why do we need to reset? I'm bored with resetting. I want things to move forward. Like, I love the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
And I think if you watch the character arcs of some of those characters, Wolverine from the first X-Men movie to Days of Future Past goes through a hell of a lot of change, and everything that happens in the previous movie has a knock-on effect for the one before to the one following it. X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men 2, X-Men 3.
Yeah.
X-Men 3 goes into the Wolverine, and he's hung up, and he's having crazy nightmares about Jean. Like, they made something cool out of X-Men 3, which was terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. X-Men 3, they were pining over Jean's death. Where you have Civil War, that's just kind of a skirmish in a parking lot.
Bum, bum, bum. Ba, ba, bum, bum.
Who cares? They're all going to come back together for the next Avengers movie. What's going to happen. So what, and it happens, and it's pointless. The fact that they split up doesn't do anything. It isn't. There's no knock-on effects from them splitting up at the end of Civil War. They just.
I mean, to be fair, I will say that Infinity War kind of went in on that because they were all separated.
But that's it, though. You could have had any reason. Cap could have been on the other side of the world, outside the world, doing something with his team. While
still be friends, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
To the
exactly.
stories.
It doesn't. Because Tony doesn't call Cap. He just goes into space with Spider-Man, and there you go. And yeah, Pathfinder. It's a cookie cutter. It is
a cookie cutter. I mean, we can talk more about that because the Marvel Studios films have always been somewhat of an enigma to me, and I still can't really crack why. I mean, Luke, you made your conclusions, but I still have no conclusions on why I like certain aspects of it and why I still don't. I still agree with you, and I don't know. I'm always kind of torn sometimes. I don't dislike Civil War as much as you.
I was just bored.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I can agree with you in on various things for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the main thing. There's this tweet that I saved, and I think this will just summarize it all. It's not real, so why does it matter? They're all made up.
I do hate comments like that. I really do, because as a storyteller, we're aware that this stuff isn't necessarily real, but storytelling is one of the oldest art forms ever.
It's beautiful. I love it. It's wonderful.
It's societies are built on story, and sometimes those stories aren't real. Like myths and legends, those stories aren't real, but they teach something. They
teach
help.
Something. They entertain you, they move you, they inspire you. It's great. I don't think, why are we even talking? This sounds like we're on storytelling 101.
Well, no,
but
it's actually
it's true.
It's important. That's why those comments like that, I'm like, no, if you're saying that, then I think you're probably pretty ignorant about why storytelling is important, why character is important, why people relate to and want their characters to resemble who they are and grow at the same time and continue to inspire.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I wish I could be as interested into the MCU movies as everyone else is. I don't know, every time Frank types, I always imagine his voice being of a gruff 80s dude. I wish I could be as interested into the MCU movies as everyone else.
Sure. It's hard. We're talking about this, and we're calling it, Phase 5. We're calling it Phase.
I really want to get away from MCU.
Yeah, no, we're calling it Phase 5 for a reason, because realistically, I beyond this episode, but don't quote me on it.
It's going to come back.
I very likely will not be talking about Marvel as a whole anymore. Because,
that's a lie, but I understand.
As a whole, well, we might mention it as a whole, rather. I'm not going to be talking about I don't care. What I mean is, I'm not going to be talking about something specific. We're not going to watch.
We're not going to talk about Thor
She-Hulk and review every episode of She-Hulk, because I'm not going to watch that. And I think, but that brings me to why we're calling it Phase By. It's you look at Phase 4, which had Loki. Everything is Disney Plus now. and every Disney Plus show is terrible. Like Loki had some of the worst story structure I have ever seen, and Obi-Wan has the same problem. And I didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I didn't watch Wanda TV or whatever the heck it was called, because I didn't care.
Wanda deceived me. It was so intriguing. The first like 3 episodes were like fairly good because it was just, you know, mimicking an old TV show, and it was running with it. It was good, but it didn't amount to anything, unfortunately.
No, and I think what what bugs me and kind of bums me out about the new stuff is there's the article that went out that, you know, Kevin Feige wanted all of the original Avengers to die in Endgame. And you really feel that in these current phases, because Thor is a joke, Hulk is a joke, Hawkeye is a joke. All of the ones who remain are the butt of jokes everywhere we see them. And it's not interesting to me. It's like, okay, you kept 3 of them alive, do something with them, and you clearly don't want to.
Yeah, I don't understand. You don't want to, or you just don't have the ability to, and I don't understand.
Yeah, no, Anna, that's like such a great point. And yes, constant comic relief. And why? Like, we watched the trailer for She-Hulk, and it's like, why is this Sex in the City with superpowers? Like, why does it need to be like this? And Phil, I showed you that clip. You watched that clip of the from that Marvel cruise where they had that in-flight in cruise little video of Falcon and Captain Marvel and who else was there, Miss Marvel and other people, and you know, Ultron was there. Like, there was this big fight on the deck of the ship, and it's all, everything is a joke. And I think that's what was irking me towards the end of Endgame, was I was getting so bored with everything. You have a serious dramatic moment undercut by a joke. And I'm like, you really need to stop undercutting every fucking serious moment with a joke, because it's ruining the emotional weight of everything that you're doing. It's like, I half expected someone to crack a joke when Tony died. I really legit did. Like, who gets his suits? You know, I was waiting for someone to say something stupid like that.
So who gets his suits now? Cut. Funeral.
Yes. Boom. End of film. Credits. You know, like, I don't like it, and I'm so worried, because not so worried, a little worried, because I really love Daredevil. Netflix series of Daredevil was so good. 2 wasn't very good, but 1 and 3 is very good. Season 1 and 3 is very good. Daredevil coming back and being Disney Plusified, I'm like, oh my god, they're going to turn it into a joke. It's going to be full of comedy. It's not going to have that dark grittiness that it was capable of with Netflix, because what grit is there on Disney Plus that doesn't come from a Fox property?
Captain America tried.
Captain America 2 tried. Captain America 2 tried. Anna says she's halfway through Daredevil for the first time, halfway through season 2. I mean, how do you find it? I think Charlie Cox is great. I think him and Karen are just awesome. I don't really like Foggy that much, but I think, you know, the first half of Daredevil is awesome. I like that with the Punisher. That's like a really great mini season within Daredevil season 2. So season 2 isn't all awful, but I won't spoil anything. But I don't know. There's a lot of grit to it, and it's interesting to me that those Netflix shows really stayed so far away from the MCU. And at the time, I was kind of annoyed about it. But
you were annoyed about it.
But now I'm like, no, oh my god, I'm so glad that they kept them so separate, because I can now go back and rewatch those few seasons
and not have to think about any of these other things that were going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Go on.
I do remember back then, back in 2012, where we were like, man, they should have mentioned more about the Avengers and stuff like that. I remember us
Yeah,
being like, yeah, they should have done. I mean, I have not seen any of those shows, but I was like, they should integrate them more. And it's like now,
mm,
dodge the bullet, baby. You can watch it anytime. You don't have to worry about it.
yeah. No, I mean, I am currently I'm not watching it religiously or rewatching it religiously, but I'm dipping into it every once in a while because I'm taking a lot of inspiration from it because I really like Charlie Cox as an actor, and
Yeah.
whenever you're like writing a book or writing a story, sometimes you think of a
Yeah.
actor in your head, and I've
Yeah.
sort of placed him in sort
Yeah.
of the role. I kind of envision him as the protagonist in my new book,
Totally.
and so I kind of dived back into it a little bit. And I'm just like watching. I'm like, this is so good, and it's the only. It's really they're the only kind of Marvel shows that are really decent, you know. And
Yeah.
seeing what they did with Loki, like Loki was a side character in his own show. Same with Hawkeye. Like it's just like guys, and you know Hulk is obvious. I mean, the show is She-Hulk, so you know Hulk is just going to be a side guy. But you can tell from the trailers that it's going to be really cliche and unexciting, which, you know, I mean, it is kind of why when it comes to Marvel now, it's like, you know, they have the Fantastic Four, they have the X-Men, my favorite superheroes, and I'm like, I don't ever want to see an MCU X-Men movie. I never want to see it, and I might just be really stubborn, even though Frank won't believe me. I might just be really stubborn and just never see one. Because I don't trust them to do the X-Men as the X-Men.
But you just wait. When it comes out, everyone on social media is going to be like, it was really good. I didn't expect much, but it was so good. And then you watch it and you're like, here we are. We're back at Prey.
But maybe, probably not as much, because what I've said about Marvel recently is Marvel has become the Transformers franchise. Every Transformers movie that comes out is stupid, but it makes $1 billion or something like that. It makes a lot of money. And Marvel is the same. They don't have to try. They have a dedicated audience, so they just have to put the fast food out, and they will come. You know, if you crap it, they will come.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, Marvel. I mean, I think the biggest tragedy is they don't have to try.
They don't at all. And it frustrates me to no end, because it's like your franchise would do so much better if you tried. And
but we don't have to try. We can write a draft and pick it up into production, and we'll have a series in a year, and there we go. We got more viewers to watch it, and then the next one will come out later, you know, and it'll be the same.
Yeah, no, it's so boring. Like it's so I'm exhausted with it, and like
that's why we try not to watch it anymore.
And this is why we're saying Marvel Phase by, because it's literally like we hung around for a few things with Phase 4, and boy were they very, very disappointing. It's like like line in the sand. The only thing with Phase 4 I saw.
What was the best thing? Like, what was the best thing in Phase 4 that we saw? Now I'm trying to think about that.
I only saw Loki and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh yeah, No Way Home. That's an exception though.
No Way Home would have to be the best one.
Yeah, but that's an exception because like we all know that the reason that was good was because
the last 40 minutes.
Because the other Spider-Man movies and implementing it fairly decently.
Yes, there was they respected both Toby and Andrew far more than I thought they would.
Yeah, and the characters that came from their movies as the villains as well. I was very surprised and happy because why are we talking about this? But I just like that each of these characters, you know, Norman Osborn, they came in and they kind of dominated the story as they would because those are the characters. You know what I mean? They're gonna cause trouble. Green Goblin's gonna cause trouble the way he did in the first Spider-Man, and that's what hit me. I was like, wow, like it was. He came from Spider-Man from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's not a washed, he's not a washed over, watered down version.
No, not at
So
all. Not at all. Two things. Forgot to mention this one. I'm glad, Anna, that you are enjoying Daredevil. It is refreshing. Enjoy it because it is terrific. Chief Brody rules. Yeah. Funny thing is, Punisher is also coming back. I tweeted about this, and I said this is going to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze version.
Oh yeah, that's what you said. Right.
Of Punisher, because if for those who don't know, that film is famous for the fact that like they don't ever use their weapons because the first one was too violent. So like there's a significant dialing back of fighting and using their weapons, and I'm like, Disney Plus, they're not going to have the Punisher doing Punisher things. No way. It's going to be like a cheap version of it. Like it's going to be a funny version of it. And I'm done with the comedy, and it's a shame because last thing we'll talk about is Fantastic Four. You've always had a really good idea for the Fantastic Four.
I love that you still remember about that idea. It's been like how long ago? Like
a decade?
12, 13, 14 years ago. Like I've been talking about this all the time, and I just said, look, let's just make a Fantastic Four movie, set it in the 60s. Perfect. I'd love to see that. And we also had like a Superman story we would set in the 40s as well, if you remember that.
Yes, I drafted a 1940s version of the Doomsday Story, where throughout the whole film, Spider-Man. Let me think. Superman is fighting Doomsday throughout the entire film, and so spliced between these big epic fights, you're getting caught up with the story, and there's like a bit going on with Lois Lane and infiltrating Luthor Corp, where they have kind of found the Doomsday, and then there's stuff going on with Superman. And
like stuff.
So it's all kind of going all over the place, and then culminates in the big death of Superman. But it's not linear, but it's told like I think I did a good job on it.
I think it's great.
Probably not if I reread it.
Yeah, I mean that's how it always goes, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so I think
what I mean is like you look at your old stuff and you're just like, whoa, okay.
Yes. But the concept I think is fun. And yeah, I like that. I like the idea of like, you know what? Let's get these guys out of the modern day, because sometimes it gets just so bogged down by modern day, and and also some characters just thrive way better in the time period they were created in as well. Case in point, Fantastic Four, in my opinion. Yes, yeah, and I think Fantastic Four would benefit greatly from a 1960s treatment, because in the same way the X-Men First Class like knocked it out of the park.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
knocked it out of the park. It's great. Why not? Yeah. Why not? Oh wait, we'll get to this in 1 second. Yes, the first TMT movie had so many bodies. That is very true. Anna asks, off topic. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in another podcast about the fairly recent trend of animated series based on video games. Do you know either of these shows?
Okay, yeah, Castlevania. I heard it was pretty good. Didn't see it. Arcane, I heard was really good, and I didn't see it.
Okay, so that means you have to watch it.
I want to watch Arcane because I keep hearing how good it is, and I'm always surprised because it's from a video game called, was it League of Legends? I think it's League of Legends, or Defense of the Ancients. I don't know. I'm old, but it's like, but that game inherently does not have a story. It's just cool looking characters with a setting, and you fight each other. It's like, but they made a story that's actually supposed to be really good. Like everyone keeps recommending Arcane to me. It's like how many episodes is it? Like 6 episodes miniseries, and it's great. And I heard it was really good, so I want to see it. But I never had the time. But I'd like to.
Okay, so how many episodes is it?
6.
Okay, 6. Okay.
Yeah, and Chief Brody Rules only knows Jinx. He loves Jinx. Jinx is an interesting character design. She's the main character in this show, so.
I don't know who Jinx is.
Just write Jinx League of Legends.
Okay. Looking. Okay, right. Interesting. Of course, Frank knows this one. Oh, Franklin.
Of course. It's good design.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, if it's only how long are the episodes?
Like 40 minutes, 2 hours.
Oh, 9 episodes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I
If
mean,
not
I
40,
would,
it's 30. I don't know.
okay. I would be interested. I would be willing to watch it and give opinion on the show, and you give opinion on the show and the game.
Okay, because I have not played the game.
That's fine. You can still talk about the game because I don't know anything about video games. I can talk about Mario 2.
Mario, are you
3.
excited? Chris Pratt, he's so cool.
Oh. That's like the worst casting. I'm so sick of Chris Pratt. Anyway, that's a topic for another day.
Frank says that I kept drawing Jinx for him for his birthday for a couple years. It's good times.
Oh, that's very nice of you, isn't it?
Right.
I think we've come to the end of our first episode of the Luke Deckard show.
I'd say this is a success.
I'd say so. I think we put some of the world to right, and we will go away and it will go back to being the way it was, which is.
How do you do the Predator?
I don't know, but that just sounds gross. Sounds like you're like spit or something. What was the word for it that they used in the subtitles? Wickering. That was it. Wicker like the Predator.
I can't.
You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. So no. just stop. Anyway,
you want to just if there's any comments?
Yeah. Any final words? We're gonna skip over that question.
No, we're not gonna skip over that question because one half of your host is part of this. Twofold Podcast is on a hiatus that should last until the end of summer. My cousin Tim is burnt out and working really hard, so he has no time for anything. And I'm hoping it comes back someday. But not in the meantime. But in addition, I'm here with Luke to talk about stuff, and I hope it's a different dynamic, because I'm definitely excited to talk to Luke about.
Indeed,
things.
This has been a long time coming. You and me doing a show.
Yeah.
Doing a show. Yes, and thank you so much for subbing, Biffer. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. No, I mean we're a very different sort of beast to Twofold in what we do and what we talk about. I'm hoping to bring on some guests and we'll for Phil and I to speak with some.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're hoping to get some guests like frequent people to show up to talk to us.
Yeah, bring on some different writers and filmy people and stuff like that Phil might know or whatnot. So yes, it should be quite fun. And we'll be back next Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about. I kind of find topics throughout the week and just that's what we'll talk about on every Wednesday.
Do they have like at least some kind of.
I would sort of like to. There's two things I would like to talk about. One is I would sort of like to talk about the shambles that is the DC universe, because I figured we did Marvel this week. We should just get DC out of the way, and I find DC really funny.
I find DC very funny. Like every podcast that I find about like media and stuff, whenever there's like a Zack Snyder something, I'm like, I'm listening to it. I'm listening to this episode. I want to hear.
Yeah. And I don't have as much involvement with DC as I did. Go on.
Good or bad. Like if they say it was great, I want to hear why they think it was great. For some reason, it's just interesting.
Yeah. And because I don't have the investment that I do with Marvel, so therefore I can sort of just be baffled by DC. Frank wants Star Wars in episode 3. That can be done. That can be done.
Go back there.
We should do one. Come on,
like, every time I say I don't want to, you know that I do, and I will.
Like when I say I'm not going to talk about Marvel ever again, but the minute She-Hulk comes out,
this is like the 10th time I've heard this, but okay, yeah.
Yes, Frank. Yes, the DC movies are more interesting because of their choices. I agree. It's bizarre, and especially what's going on now with WB canceling everything, and it's just so funny and bizarre. Oh, whoops. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that stuff. So we will do that. Chrissy Joe, my friend told me that Arcane, I don't so watch it. I don't trust her opinion of media per se, but I'm willing to watch it. And okay, cool. I don't care for Castlevania. Okay, that's fine. Though I like old video games. Okay, well at least you can help us talk about this episode when we get there. Yes, Frank wants Star Wars out of the way. Fair enough. Yeah. Are there any other comments before we sign off? So yeah. Anyway, next week we'll do hopefully do some DC stuff. And the other thing that we would also like to do is maybe do some more retro chit chats. I'm really interested in talking about some older stuff that we really like, whether that's like what? Planet of the Apes. We've been rewatching Planet of the Apes. It's like, might be fun to revisit some old stuff. And also maybe look at like, I don't know, interesting adaptations of books and things like that into film and TV show from the eras gone by.
The Forbidden Zone was once a paradise. Your breed made a desert of it long ago.
Indeed. Damn you all to hell.
Still doesn't give me the why.
Indeed. So yeah, cool guys. Thank you everyone for watching. This was a lot of fun, and we will see you next week, next Wednesday at 7:30 GMT. That's Greenwich Maritime. That's what we call. That's what we call time in Britain.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
I didn't know that. I didn't know they actually called it GMT as in Greenwich Maritime.
Yes,
and it was great.
Great Mingland's time. I'm gonna butcher this. I don't remember the full reason, but it has something to do with the map and intersecting things on the map. And I think it was from like when England was ruling the world, and they sort of made themselves the center of the world.
Oh, when England was young.
And so I think the intersection came at Greenwich. Stop it. So I think Greenwich came in the intersection. I think that's why that is. I might be wrong. You Google it, find out for yourself.
Great.
But there we go. All right, everyone.
Okay. We'll talk to you later then.
Have a good night. No one can hear you right now, Phil.
We'll talk to you later. We'll talk to you later, okay? I look like a 90s music video. Bye.
Frank, don't stop the podcast in its track to work in historical accuracy. Fucking hell, I know. All right. With that, peace.